Let me invite Dr. Dhiliphan Kumar, Head of SMIIF and founder of Stride, that leads initiatives in innovation, leadership development and strategic growth, onto the stage. Michael, lead of the Center for Future Mobility, OMI Foundation, that drives initiatives that transform urban transportation through innovation and strategic solutions. We welcome you, sir. Next, Velayutham, co-founder and CEO of TamiraBot, that leverages his experiences from Tesla and beyond to drive advancements in automation and intelligent systems. Welcome you, sir. And last we have Velmurugan, co-founder and CEO of Taxina, leads the development of customer-focused solutions that make financial and tax services accessible and user-friendly. Welcome you, sir. Now let's welcome our panelists for a powerful discussion on reimagining urban mobility. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's be seated. Indeed, a great privilege for us to host this wonderful panel discussion on reimagining urban mobility, AI automation, and the future of how India moves. And today we have an eminent personalities with us. We have Mr. Anish from OMI Foundation, who is a policymaker again. And we have the co-founder of Taxina, Mr. Velmurugan, with us. And we have the employee who worked formerly for Tesla and now with being as a startup founder for the startup named TamiraBot, Mr. Velayutham. So great privilege for us again. And before getting into it, let us know about urban mobility. When you're talking about mobility, normally what we think is something which travels on the roads. This is what we normally think as a mobility. But when it comes to urban mobility, it is more than it is not alone the road system, but it is how it works for the people again. So putting people in the front is what is urban mobility, but still in India, we copy more from the global and we do that as a copycat. So before getting into the session, I would like to request the panelists to kindly introduce them, and you can also introduce your company so that the people, those who are being here, can know much more about it. Let me start with Mr. Anish.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is always a tough session after lunch. But my name is Anish, and I lead the Center for Future Mobility at OMI Foundation. We are a public policy think tank that works across mobility and looking at mobility through different lenses. I think our prime work is to look how to improve mobility within cities and engage with the government stakeholders, putting forward policy advocacy initiatives and understand how we can work together in a collaborative effort to improve mobility.
Thank you, and over to Mr. Velmurugan, the co-founder of Taxina.
Vanakkam. So now Velmurugan Panneerselvam, co-founder and CEO of Taxina. So why Taxina? So we make people move. ஒரு இடத்துல இருந்து இன்னொரு இடத்துக்கு மக்களை நகர்த்தி ஆகணும். அந்த நகர்த்துறது வந்து அர்பனுக்கு மட்டும் இல்லை, இட்ஸ் ஃபார் எவ்ரிவேர். No more the divide of urban or rural. Everywhere people need easy mobility solutions, and we want something especially tweaked for India. You know, India is a democratic country. Every 100 kilometers, the complete culture changed, business dynamic changed, people needs and expectation changed. So one model can't serve the entire India altogether. So we need to tweak it for every 100 kilometers. Now in Taxina, what we say, Taxina reacts for each district's needs. So ஒரு Lego block மாதிரி mobility solution வந்து எல்லாருக்கும் கொண்டு போயிட்டு to democratize this technology, what Taxina do.
So he has rightly pointed out how it works in India actually when compared with another countries again. So over to Mr. Velayutham, who have a global exposure working with Tesla and building his own startup called TamiraBot. Over to your experience, please.
Vanakkam, good afternoon. Actually, I am Velayutham. TamiraBotல இப்போ நாங்கள் என்ன பண்ணிகிட்ருக்குறோம் அப்படின்னா, எஸ்பெஷலி இப்போ வந்து மேட் இன் இண்டியாங்கிறது வந்து மேக் இன் இண்டியாவாக மாறிடுச்சு. We are trying to bring back to made in India and position ourselves in a global supply chain with the premium product who are ready to pay the price beyond what the Chinese are fixing in there. ஸோ சைனீஸோட பிஸ்னஸ் மாடல் தெரிஞ்சவங்களுக்கு எல்லாருக்குமே நான் என்ன அப்படின்னா, அவங்களோட பிஸ்னஸ் மாடலே வந்து மார்க்கெட்டில் வந்து ப்ராடக்டை ஃப்ளட் பண்ணி தே ஆர் பெனிட்ரேட்டிங் இன் டு த மார்க்கெட். பட் வாட் வி ஆர் ட்ரைங் டு டூ இஸ் வி ஆர் பிரிங்கிங் த ரியல் வேல்யூ டு த ப்ராடக்ட் அண்ட் தட்ஸ் ஹவ் வி ஆர் ஏபிள் டு செல் பியாண்ட் த சைனீஸ் மார்க்கெட் ப்ரைஸ். ஸோ அதுதான் நாங்கள் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம்.
It's all about value creation in supply chain again.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. And my first question is to Mr. Anish, that being working as the policy research on this mobility, what is your perspective that how India will be there in 2030 on this mobility platform?
I think, 5 years down the line, what we currently need to focus on, I think what we can call as a structural shift, is to focus and move away from more a vehicle-centric approach to a more people-centric approach. And what I mean by that today is, if you look at policies, they're primarily governed to enable the usage of private vehicles, and they're less focused on moving people. So we did a study about 2 to 3 years back called the Ease of Moving Index that looked at mapping cities across 40 cities. And we basically wanted to understand what the mobility ecosystems are in each of these cities. And we benchmarked them against 9 broad parameters. And as Sir had rightly said, each mobility is unique in its own ecosystem. What we found out for tier 2, tier 3 cities, and that's also the focus for the summit, we understood that public transportation and active and shared mobility ecosystems have a good base. But where they do lack is looking at road safety, looking at inclusive mobility, that is enabling mobility that is accessible for persons with disability, senior citizens, women, children, etc. They also lack in innovation, growth, and also the investments required for mobility to grow. And looking at this is where we feel the opportunity lies for tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. And they cannot be done in silos. It's not that mobility assets don't exist. Each city has its own bus systems. We have startups that are looking into the shared mobility ecosystem. But from a policy angle and research angle, we see that they're all working in silos. They're not working in unison, and that's where the problem lies. And that's kind of very predictable as to what the outcomes are today. You have high congestion, even in cities like, say, Coimbatore or Erode. Today also, when we have to go back, we're already predicting, okay, fine, maybe this is peak hours, I need to give a buffer of maybe 15-20 minutes, leave early. And that's leading to a lot of rising pollution, and we see that impact across all cities. It's not restricted to, say, a tier 1 city. Of course, the degree varies from one to another. But I think for this shift, what is also required is more a behavioral shift in understanding it. Today, we are a very aspirational nation. Each of us wants to own a car, but can it be like, say, in 2030? What I wish for the nation is that the fastest, easiest mode of transport is public transport or shared mobility ecosystems, and I take a conscious decision to move away from private vehicles.
Got it, Mr. Anish. And one other thing is like, as you told about inclusion, Taxina works with the taxis. If you take, there is Cab who works with auto in the Tier 3 cities of Kanyakumari district. And everywhere across the nooks and corners of India, we can find people who works on mobility on different aspects. But one thing which lingers me is like the startups, which suits best for the startups. Either it is on the innovation part, or it may be on the part of execution, or it may how it fits for them when it comes to system integration. So which fits more for the startups, those who are emerging in this particular mobility platform?
I think for startup ecosystem, I feel I'll probably build this into these 3 elements or the buckets of innovation, execution, and system integration. I think what is critical is that depending on where the startup ecosystem is, I think that's where, say, it could be at an innovation stage, at an execution stage, or a system integration phase. And at one point of time, they will be at all the intersections. Yeah, I'll talk about two examples that we are also currently working on, since we are also looking at future of mobility, etc. One is on advanced air mobility ecosystems and within the realm of electric mobility, we are looking at electrical road systems. Now, why I do bring about these two particular technology innovations and interventions is that when you're talking about air taxis, we are talking about in the future where we are talking about vehicles that are flying at very low altitude, carrying both cargo and passenger. Of course, that entails a lot of policy aspects, safety, etc. But this is where a lot of startups within India are focusing on how they could, improve their vehicle design, improve their safety operations, improve their standards. This despite that there is no existing policy in place. So there is a push from the innovators to push for a policy direction that will enable them to, in future, be commercially viable. On the electric mobility ecosystem, we are working with a few startups and innovation organizations, both within India and globally as well, where we're looking at charging infrastructure, but from a standpoint of electrical road systems. So today, usually we have static charging, right? We have charge point operators that set up charging stations. And, if I own an electric vehicle, I go to that charging station, I wait for about 15, 20, 30 minutes or 1 hour, depending on my battery size. And then I have to recharge my vehicle and then continue. But what if we had roads that were inbuilt through dynamic charging where while I'm driving, the vehicle gets charged? So this is from an innovation standpoint. But I think what is critical from a startup standpoint is the execution. We are today in an age of AI, right? So we've also worked with a few organizations and startups that work with this how AI interventions could improve mobility, specifically from the standpoint of safety, specifically from the standpoint of decarbonization, from the standpoint of connected vehicles. For example, can I have an intelligent transport traffic management system that will let through emergency vehicles in the time of need and not for an ambulance be stuck behind traffic in the time of emergency. So this is where the execution comes, because this is where you see the policy goals being translated into measurable outcomes, where the startups come forward, provide that impetus and the innovation to provide those and give life to the policy goals. The third, on the system integration bit as well, what I mentioned earlier, none of us can work in silos, right? And startup ecosystems, of course, they have their own ventures. But when you work together, across various data standards, various, standard operational procedures, you talk about interoperable platforms, etc. I think once that is systemically integrated, I think that's providing a very, very conducive ecosystem, not just for the startups, but also for the urban mobility and rural mobility at large. So that's where I think I would end by saying that, where policy gives that direction, I think startup ecosystems within India, and specifically, budding cities like Salem, Erode, and tier 2, tier 3 cities, they provide that solution that comes where policy may not be able to find that. They may give the direction, but they may not have the conducive policy. When it comes to execution, I think that's where they give light to what targets can be met through those innovations and technology innovations that startups come with. And of course, when it comes to system integration, I think when everyone works together, I think you find a city in 2030 or 2035, when you're looking at cities that are sustainable, that are clean, that are reliable, that are safe for everyone to use.
You have rightly said that policy making is nothing but hardening the mobility startups. It's not hardening, it is all about the SOP, the standards that they need to set before they get into this mobility again. And as Taxina is over here, we have Truck Taxi who works on cargoes from the down south of Tamil Nadu. And as I told, talking about inclusivity, normally the leftover was after the car gets into more populated, that auto becomes left over again. And there are even rail heading apps now started with integrating the cabo cup. That's where we can stand with inclusivity again. So this is how the mobility is getting revamping right now in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And my question to Mr. Velayutham sir, as you worked globally for Tesla, you know more about AI and automation. And recent in terms, no, if anywhere to any startups, if you ask, they used to say that our startup is an AI-powered startup, or we are an AI-driven startup. So AI it is a catalyst for them to run their show. It doesn't mean that that is the only USP for them. So being working at Tesla and building your own startup, how AI and automation, whether it is overhyped or it is overused, what you feel?
This is a very difficult question you are making me to track. Because one side I am a startup founder and what the AI can really do is the clustering concept as well as the last mile.
Mindset of the people, can we say? Because even at the last minute, no, even when we book some the mobility platform, no, they will withdraw it. Even if you go down south, no, from Madurai and all those regions, they will ask extra more tips. Yeah. Only then they will come for.
Exactly. And also
The next, again, the next question is to you. What do you want to tell the Indian founders to do with? Either because most of the time we copy from the global markets again. So we need to go with that thing, or we need to literally identify what is the problem existing and to work with. So what is your opinion on it?
literally we need to identify the problem. Because without the problem we cannot bring the value to our problem. So that is the first need.
Thank you. And my question is to the co-founder of Taxina, being as a travel partner for this, the NEST program too again. So what made you to build this rail heading platform exclusively for the tier 2 and tier 3 cities?
Okay. So we started to build a product by 2020. So நாங்கள் சூஸ் பண்ணது வந்து ரைட் ஹேலிங்னு இல்லை. ஸோ மீ அண்ட் மை ஃபவுண்டர் பிங்கு, when you are looking for a right problem to solve, we tried multiple things, and Taxina is not the first thing to start. நாங்கள் ஐடியா ஸ்டேஜ்லேயே நிறைய ப்ராடக்டை we have killed it, okay, since it is not has a viability to grow. We went on a vacation. That vacation is the actual turning point for us. என்னோட ஃப்ரெண்டு இருக்கார் மிஸ்டர் பரத்குமார்னு. ஹீ இஸ் அ டிரைவர் டர்ன்ட் ஆண்டர்ப்ரோனர். ஒரு ஆட்டோவில் he started his career. Now he holds somewhere around 50+ vehicles and operating in Salem. எந்த ரைட் ஹீலிங் பிளாட்ஃபார்ம்லேயும் இல்லை.
மீ அண்ட் மை பிரதர் பிங்கு ஆர் ஃப்ரம் டெக் பேக்ரவுண்ட். நாங்கள் ஒரு வெக்கேஷனில் மீட் பண்ணி நைட் ஒரு 2 மணிக்கு உட்காந்து பேசிகிட்டு இருக்கும்போது we try to convince him like ஏன் எதுக்குள்ளேயும் போல் you will be left behindங்கும்போது he gave an answer that completely changed our perspective on ride hailing. அவர் சொன்னது 15 லட்ச ரூபா போட்டு நான் வண்டி வச்சுருக்கேன், வண்டிக்கு டிரைவருக்கு நான் சம்பளம் கொடுக்குறேன், ஃபியூவல் நான் பே பண்ணிக்கிட்டு இருக்கேன். நான் இன்றைக்கி இருக்கிற ரைட் ஹெயிலிங் பிளாட்ஃபார்ம் எல்லாமே என்ன கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணுற மாதிரி இருக்குது. இந்த பிஸ்னஸ் எப்படி பண்ணணும்னு எனக்கு தெரியும், என்னை எம்பவர் பண்ணுற ஒரு டூல் தேவை, என்னை கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணுற டூல் தேவையில்லைன்னு சொன்னார். தட் hit us hard. So India as a country, especially Tamil Nadu as a country, the backbone of our country is MSME, small and medium scale enterprises. Every travel owner or every cab owner is not a driver, he is an owner of that business. And அவங்களுக்கு பிஸ்னஸ் பண்ண தெரியும், அவங்களுக்கு நெசசரி டூல்ஸ் தேவை. லெட்ஸ் எம்பவர் தெம் வித் டூல், எக்யூப் தெம் வித் ரைட் டூல், அண்ட் அவங்க கூட பக்கத்தில் போயிட்டு ஒரு அண்ணனா நாம் நிற்போம். ஸோ தட்ஸ் வென் Taxina born. So let's build the technology for the people. Technology is for the people. Okay, so that's the reason of Taxina.
Rightly he has said that when you're talking about mobility, it focuses more on the customers rather than the people, those who are involved in it. Probably the chaffers who are driving the car and all those things. So today, rail handling platforms are changing quietly. They give more importance to the people rather than the customers. Or some rail handling app even, it builds or co-create between the customers as well as to the people, the chaffer who works on it. So it is a great idea how Taxina has worked. And my other question is, what breaks you? Either the technology which involved, or else the innovation component, or else the unit economics, or when you're talking about rail handling apps, it's all about the trust that you built. For example, if you take Coimbatore, one case is they have a pink taxi, Coimbatore, Bangalore, Mumbai and all those areas. So they build trust among the women employees. So what breaks you at the very first when you start building this taxi?
People. Okay, so அவங்களுக்கு தான் எல்லாமே. So whatever you talk is for them. So predominantly Taxina works on 3 verticals. Okay, so to make this ride hailing sustainable for India. ஓகே, இன்றைக்கி நம்ம வந்து ரைட் ஹெயிலிங் பிளாட்ஃபார்ம் நீங்கள் சொல்லும்போது கூட அர்பன் மொபிலிட்டின்னு இதை அர்பனில் கொண்டு போய் வச்சிங்க. வி டெஃபினெட்லி ஹாவ் அ செகண்ட் பெர்ஸ்பெக்டிவ் ஆன் இட். இன் அனதர் 5 years அர்பன் சிட்டிஸ்க்கு ரைட் ஹெயிலிங் தேவைப்படாது. ஓகே, அங்கே வந்து பீப்புள் ஆர் மோர் நீட் ஃபார் சார் சொன்ன மாதிரி ஃபஸ்ட் மைல் அண்ட் லாஸ்ட் மைல் கனெக்டிவிட்டி ஃபார் தி பப்ளிக் டிரான்ஸ்போர்ட் சிஸ்டம். because the number of vehicles on the road road தாங்காது. So we need to build a system for the first mile and last mile connectivity. That is our solution. We are working on it for urban. Whereas ரூரலுக்கு வரும்போது இங்கே ரைட் ஹெயிலிங் தேவை. பட் இங்கே ரைட் ஹெயிலிங் இப்போ இருக்கிற ரைட் ஹெயிலிங் மாடல் ஒர்க் ஆகாது. இந்த மண்ணுக்கான ரைட் ஹெயிலிங் மாடல் தேவை. He is a businessman, a person who is having a cab, operating it, and another person need a quick mobility. இவங்களை கனெக்ட் பண்ணுறதுக்கான ஒரு பிளாட்ஃபார்ம் தான் தேவை. ஸோ தட் ஷுட் பி டெமோக்ரட்டைஸ்டு ஃபார் தட் பர்டிகுலர் டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட். ஸோ தட் இஸ் ஹவு Taxina differs. எல்லா ஊர்லேயுமே we are working closely with the travel operator on that district, tweaking the app to serve for that district, and every dynamic is controlled on that district. So Taxina, how it behaves for Salem is completely different from Erode, completely different from Coimbatore, completely different from Kanyakumari as well. We recently launched there also. So this is the second front of it. And the third front is the technology or the innovation. இந்த 2 ப்ராப்ளத்தையும் சால்வ் பண்ண என்னென்ன இன்னோவேஷன் தேவையோ we are working towards it. So interoperability is one, and connected travel is another one. So we are working towards that, and the end goal is to make the mobility accessible to public, for the people. So whatever they need, yeah, we are in for it.
So your thing is like we need to democratize the mobility to the entire...
So the tagline of Taxina is தொழில் உங்களுடையது, தொழில்நுட்பம் எங்களுடையது, ஜனநாயகப்படுத்தும் டெக்னாலஜி. That's what.
The right time Jananayam also released.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yeah.
And my next question to Mr. Anish, and let us wind up after this. Being as a policy maker, the thing is how we can link the government, startups, the policy maker and the industry to work for the betterment of the people again.
I think I mentioned this earlier as well. Everyone works in silos, and that's something that we've also faced every single time we've gone to the government, taking recommendations, etc. But I think the one fix to that is putting everyone in one room, finding a solution there and then, of course, not there and then, but over a course of consultations and discussions, and finding that end policy directive that is conducive for all ecosystems, all stakeholders, but like Sir said, finally benefiting the public at large. Because that's something that we find missing across all conversations whenever, be it the center or the state. So that's something that we should really, really focus on.
Rightly said. And I think that mobility is not how India moves. It is how we take it sustainably, how we take it inclusivity. So that is where the success it comes, I think so. And hopefully, thank you for joining with us in this panel discussion. And due to time constraints, let us wind it out. And thank you again. I request Mr. Tirumurthy Arumugam sir to kindly honor our panel members with a memento.